Hello, I am going to talk about a 3D printer pen. And I'm a math teacher and I was looking for what kind of technology tool I could find to sort of go along with math, to sort of add a little bit of fun and, um, and even a little engineering into math. And I asked around in my school district and found a couple 3D printer pens, one from a middle school that I think had some filament stuck in it. And it comes with these large spools of filament in it so that you can actually keep, like, continually make things. Um, this little one from an elementary school comes with these shorter filaments, so you just have to be ready to load them more frequently. Um, but there's all kinds of cool things that you can do. There's all kinds of art connections, and I know that you could connect, create some things that you could use in history and English, but the connections to science, engineering, math, technology are pretty cool. Obviously, you could use this to write. I just wrote a little bit ago, so I have letters I can manipulate and use, which you could do with your kids. Create letters and then be able to move them or use them and make letters or words out of them. If any quadrant paper you can make any kind of shape that you'd want to, and then have discussions about ratio and proportion. I'm just demonstrating here a little bit how it's pretty easy to use. You just push once to start and once again to stop. And sometimes, shakes in here. There's a triangle, for example. You have to be kind of steady with it. It doesn't come out super fast. Some of the pens actually come with a speed regulators, so you can, sort of set it to what speed you're most comfortable with. The other cool thing about it is when the plastic comes out, it's actually quite warm. It's not hot. So it's easy to mold if you're not happy with the shape that it's in, you want it to sort of be more straight, like I kind of wish that was right there, to use it, but you can mold it a little bit and have a little say in what it looks like before it dries, which is pretty sweet. So this one, and by the way, I just put some plastic sheet covers over some of these things that I'm using, but really you can just do this directly on the paper, um, and it will not burn through paper or anything like that. It's pretty simple to use, and it's really, especially this, I mean, it's quite safe. It's also pretty cool in this particular model how you can kind of see how it works inside. And see, I'm running out of filament, so I need to have another stick ready here. There are things like this you can find, all kinds of models you can find online. I'm going to switch to red. I haven't used red yet. So I'm just going to have this ready. So it's still pretty far down, or down in there. I don't quite need to do it yet. But here, for instance, is a model of a dodecahedron, and it tells you how many of each shape that you need to make. So you just simply trace these shapes. I'm kind of dragging it on the plastic. Sometimes if you're like me and sometimes you get the shakes, it's a little hard to hold steady, but luckily we can mold it a little bit more when we're done. See, the faster that I move it, the thinner the line becomes. So you've got to be kind of patient if you want it to be more solid. Obviously, if you want a shape that will be more sturdy, then you have to add more filament, more plastic. So just be prepared to do that. I didn't want to use up too much of this filament, so I was kind of cautious with that. But that's how simple it is. It just takes a minute or so for it to dry, and you can pop it up. If I was going to make another of these, I would probably make it just a little thicker, and then you just trace these, And like this one, I only needed one of this one of that one. I need four of these. And then you just sort of hold them together. This would be a great activity for like two students to do together so that one can hold the pieces. And another reason why I say that is because when I practiced, I made some different shapes, or I wanted to try a different activity that came with the book. So this one comes with this cool little activity guide with some different models in it, tips for how to make things, and all of that's lots of really helpful tools. This one has all of these models inside it. So you can see like real strong connections to engineering and math and science. You can have all kinds of discussions about ratio and scale and proportions. You can make things that they can use, which gets them really excited. There's a pair of glasses in here that you can make. There's bugs, and obviously like a little dinosaur here and a helicopter. This is the mold for the glasses, so it is life size. It's actually just a little bit bigger, so it'd be pretty fun for them to make and then get really excited about what they're doing in class and show each other and go home and show their parents. There's some art connections, which would be kind of fun. Maybe even as an alternative to making other kinds of masks. Maybe a student can make something like that. I wanted to pick something that not only combines something that I love, which is flowers, with geometry and shapes. So I picked this particular activity to make for myself. And I didn't want to use a ton of filament. So mine is not solid like how this one is here, just because I didn't want to use up all the plastic that was in it. But it has these pretty simple directions for how to put them together. But you make all these individual shapes, and then you just use more filament to adhere them together, which is pretty cool. So this is even like, stuck in there pretty good. I used tape too to sort of stabilize it, especially since I was doing it by myself. Um, Decided to make myself a little daisy slash sunflower, a sun daisy as I like to call it. So it's pretty neat what I put together here. I'm excited about it. I'm going to put it on my shelf next to my other little cool things. And here's the model for a building. This one's the Eiffel Tower. It shows you how to assemble all these shapes, and again, like what you have to trace. This paper is really nice and a little waxy, so it's like thicker, a little waxy. It's easy to trace, and then you just leave it there for a minute or so, not even longer than that, and they just pop right off. And then you just hold the pieces together to assemble them. So that's pretty cool. I really actually liked this idea. I kind of want to get my own and make my own things. Here's a Big Ben, so you can make the pieces to that and assemble them. They're on the next page here. So there's all kinds of stuff that you can make in there. This, and again, I like to go back to this one because it's pretty fun. The shape that you get in the end is neat. There's also models online for making dice, and then you can play different kinds of games, obviously stats and things like that. There's a fractal tree model online that I found. This is the worksheet that goes with it, so they can record measurements. This is usable in both math and science. And then I found this pentominal stencil activity that someone had loaded, where the students create the shapes and then they use them to actually play with. So it comes with this grid, and then they're going to make their own shapes, it's actually kind of helpful in this case if they make something that's a little bit more solid than just a thin line like I'm making right now. Two down. Now see, it's getting low in filament, so I want to put this red in there and load it, and I'm going to redo that since I don't like it very much. And see how easy it is to just like take the plastic off and start again. Load. and over. Oops. I'll show you here in a second that that's actually kind of easy to fix and redo. It's a challenge to remember to click and unclick the button. Use a little bit to get used to, but it's really easy once you get used to it. And that's another reason why I discovered that I liked doing this on plastic, because it also made it easier to manipulate afterwards. So we would just use this to fill in. See, it's switching to red now. Well, and it's getting a little away from me, but see how you can just kind of mold it to be where you want. And if you need to take a break and mush things together, like I like to do, it's pretty simple, because I want to be able to fill in this gap over here, but if I just use my fingers, I can sort of push all that together. And then I can come back in here and fill this gap. Oh, come on. So it's not a perfect thing, and I think one of the things that I've discovered is that it's not perfect for math, but that it's really fun to make models, and that there's all kinds of things that you can make together with this. So you can also use this to do transformations in geometry. You could make a shape and then on the same grid follow directions to rotate, reflect, or shift in order to answer what final coordinates certain points would have on the shape. So thanks for listening to me. This was a little bit longer video than I intended, but this is how I have discovered the use of the 3Doodler, a 3D printer pen.